Arthur Pendragon is the next legendary open field cavalry commander coming to Rise of Kingdoms, and today I have done a bunch of testing for him to see is he actually good on the open field. So if you're interested in who worked best with Arthur Pendragon, his results, who we can beat in a 1v1 situation, and how strong I think he really is, you want to stick around till the end of the video. Now, as a quick disclaimer today, I am using the Rise of Kingdoms tester, and of course, since it is not official, I have to say a few things. First of all, it's not 100% accurate. We don't know exactly what Arthur Pendragon could do when he comes in game. I have again noticed, I say this all the time, the test is relatively accurate. I mean, it gives you a good understanding of which commanders can usually pair well with other legendary commanders. The same is going to be said for Arthur Pendragon. I'm sure I'm going to hear that it's not going to know how combo damage is going to work. To my knowledge, combo damage is very, very similar to how Liu Chair's expertise works, and it should work. I mean, literally, Liu Chair's expertise has a combo attack, so generally, it should work well with combo damage. It should be able to read the new commander's kit, Arthur's whole entire kit, and get it relatively right. So I think the tester is almost going to be on point for this commander, unlike previous commanders that we've tested. So in my opinion, I think it's going to be relatively accurate, and I used it for all the testing today because he's not in game yet. I can't really do much else. Now, in terms of what I used during the test, like how did I run the test? Very simply, here's all the stats I used. I did just reopen the tester and put everything back on because I had closed it, but I had a full iconic set on both sides. Each side got whatever their civilization that I thought was best. Archers obviously is Ottoman. Infantry, I would say it is probably Vikings, and Cavs don't have a very good one, but I did give them Byzantium. I've used Ottoman for all of them in the past, and people say it's unfair, so I've tried to use their best civilization this time. Each side gets a 10% defense buff, 15% health to show a 10% rune and a 5% city skin, and a VIP level of 13 to 16. Also, again, just to keep simplicity, and this might affect the results a little bit, I have put each side at a just whatever their stock standard legendary set is. So for example, Cavs got Hellish Wasteland, Archers got Dragon Breath, Infantry got, I think it is Eternal Empire. Each side also got 300,000 tier 5 units, and then I pretty much just ran a bunch of 1v1s to see which side is going to win and which one will be stronger. Generally as well, for both sides, I used a full skill tree if it's available, or for the other commanders, I used whatever the recommended trees were. So that is how I ran the test. They're going to be they're fairly accurate in my opinion. Also, I did have a 40% all damage bonus to represent it being in KVK. So that is what I did for the test. Now, without further ado, let's just jump into the results. So now here is the testing results. This is the first test I ran, and I wanted to try Arthur as a primary. Now, Arthur as a primary, he's going to be doing a lot of combo damage. And yeah, as you can see in the first report against the William Wallace Liu Chair, now this is a meta infantry march, and obviously infantry do beat Cavs. Arthur Nevsky still got absolutely annihilated. We're going to see general trend today. I don't think that Arthur Nevsky is going to be the Arthur primary is the thing. So for the first report, he lost by I think that's 27,000. In the second report, he lost by I think that's almost 24,000, 25,000. And in the third report, I ran him as a primary, he lost by 23,000. So you can see Arthur primary is not the thing right now. I think there may be a potential with a weird pairing that maybe I've overlooked. I did test Attila and Takeda with him. I'll show those a bit later. But Arthur as a primary is not the thing. In my opinion, we're going to see that he's going to be a better secondary for most of the reports. I didn't test him anymore as a primary after this because I just didn't really see the point. And maybe once we see the Cav rally, we could see Arthur primary becoming a bit more meta, but for now, I just do not think it's really a thing. Moving on to when we run Arthur secondary, this is where the results become a lot better. Alexander Nevsky with Arthur is beating infantry by around 1,000 sebs. Now you might be thinking that's rubbish, why the hell do we really care about that? Well, that's really good. Cavs are meant to lose to infantry. The fact that they are winning a 1v1 is a really interesting situation, and the fact that Arthur's an AoE commander and also winning 1v1s is very good. Moving on to the second report, it was a bigger win by around 5,000 seb wounds, but then the third report was a bit weird where we lost by around, that's I think 9,000 total. Then we lost by 5,000, and then we lost by 6,000. I kept running this again as well because it was really obscure. Next report, we won by 6,000, and the final report I think I ran, we lost by 14,000. So I think the average there was probably almost an equal out. I think maybe a slight loss by like 600 to 700 seb wounds or something. But really, you can see that running Nevsky primary, Arthur secondary it's definitely stronger than Arthur as a primary. Another thing to note, these reports are very, 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 very split apart. There is no real general middle ground here. There's no outliers. Every single report is really different with Arthur, and I think the reason behind that is his expertise, which is going to give him a bunch of extra attacks, and they can multiply trigger. So you could get 15 attacks in one turn if you get super, super lucky, or you could just get one attack in that turn if you get a bit unlucky. So Arthur's expertise really makes him a bit of an RNG commander, which isn't something we generally see. I mean, it's happened before with some other commanders, but it is kind of interesting to see with Arthur, where you'll notice he can destroy the march or get absolutely wrecked if he doesn't get his expertise to trigger too much. So first reports, they're very all over the shop, but we can generally say Arthur's going to work much better as a secondary commander, where I think he's using, and to my knowledge, I might be forgetting here, but I'm pretty sure he's using his normal skill damage and not his combo damage. Moving on to Hao Che Bing as a combination, and you can see here, it's actually doing better than Nevsky for the first report. Nevsky's biggest win on William Wallace Leelchair, I think, was a total of 7,000. First report right off the bat, we're looking at a 10,000 win. Second report, it's a 4,000 win. Third report, it's a 3,000 win, and then it loses by 6,000, loses by actually no, that's the same screenshot. And then we lose by 8,000 in, I think that's the fifth report, and then that's the last report I ran of Hao Che Bing. So Hao Che Bing, again, a little bit more sporadic, but we had kind of a tighter result. I would say it wasn't as spread out, but I would say he's probably, in this situation, a little bit stronger than Nevsky in the first report, but overall they're relatively similar so far. Hao Che Bing with Arthur, almost on point, same trades as Nevsky. Did get the biggest trade, biggest win at least, but we can put that down to RNG. Again, also, Hao Che Bing is really good in 1v1 situations. Nevsky's more of a murderable team player with his defense debuff. So I think that this kind of still shows Nevsky as being a much stronger commander in this situation than Hao Che Bing currently is. So right now, definitely interesting to see, but I don't know if it is going to be better than Nevsky or if it is going to be around equal. And at the moment, I'd say it's probably around equal. After this, I thought I'd try Arthur with Attila. I tried Arthur as a secondary, absolutely wrecked. He lost by 29,000 7 wounds. I then did another report here where it was Arthur as a primary again, and we lost by, this is like almost 33,000 7 wounds, which is ridiculous. And then I tried to run Arthur secondary, just as bad, to be fully honest. We lost by 26,000. And we lost by 33,000, sorry. So that's 36 and 33,000. Absurd losses here with Arthur. Definitely not good with Attila, either primary or secondary. I can't put this down to RNG. The trades are just that bad. So I don't think Arthur's going to work at all with Attila or Takeda. I don't think I kept the Takeda reports because they were pretty much identical. None of the reports were good at all with Attila or Takeda, with either secondary or primary. And I think it comes down to the fact that for Arthur's combo damage to actually be good, A, he needs to be the primary, and B, that means Attila's active skill doesn't really do anything, and the same with Takeda's, because they have a skill that's going to give you a buff to your normal damage, and if Arthur could benefit from that buff, it'd be amazing, but generally we're going to notice he can't actually get any benefit from it, because of the fact that he's got to be the primary, and their buffs will trigger after, so Arthur is almost useless in that situation. So Arthur right now, definitely not the hottest thing with Attila or Takeda. Moving on to running Arthur against a CPO Ragnar though, which is arguably the strongest march in the game because it is double AoE. We started off with a Nevsky and Arthur and it destroyed the march. I mean, we won the first trade by 14,000 7 wounds, second trade by, I think this is 11,000, third trade by 13,000, and I only ran 3 of those. Very, very decisive report in my opinion. These are almost identical in the amount. I don't think we're going to see much deviation from it. Even though Arthur might have been getting a little bit lucky here, I still think this is generally the trend we're going to see. CPO Ragnar is more of an open field AoE march. It's not really built for 1v1s. I was more just curious to see how good it could do. Moving on to Hao Che Bing, he won by 16k. He won by, I think this is 20,000. And he won by around 16,000 again. Higher average win here with Hao Che Bing. Slightly lower average with Nevsky, so that does show Hao Che Bing maybe a bit better in that 1v1 situation with Arthur, and could be an arguably slightly better commander because of that faster rage cycle, letting you get a bit more AoE off. So I do like the Hao Che Bing trades here, and we can see here 6 reports between the marchers. They're generally within the same trend. So that means I would say this is pretty accurate to what you would actually see in game of a CPO Ragnar versus a Hao Che Bing or a Nevsky with an Arthur secondary. Moving on to the next support, I did run the march into the current meta cavalry, Nevsky Joan. Nevsky Arthur destroyed it, 20,000 win, 20,000 win, and a 13,000 win. Very solid wins, like big margin wins there, so you can pretty much confidently say Nevsky Arthur is definitely better than Nevsky with Joan. I ran it one more time as well, 23,000, and that's very decisive. Around a 20,000 average there win, in my opinion, which is a ridiculous win to see. Moving on to Hao Bing with Arthur. Started off with, I think this is almost a 25,000 7 win. This is a 23,000 win, a almost 20,000 win, and I think that's the same report. And then around a 22,000 win. So very, very solid there with Hao Bing. Almost, I would say slightly better actually than Nevsky, probably around a 22,000 average, which is again really interesting to see. Moving on to the final test I ran, it was Zulang with Herman against Hao Bing and Nevsky with Arthur. Starting off with Hao Bing, absolutely demolished Zulang with Herman, 23,000 7 win, a 25,000 7 win, a 15,000 7 win, and around a 23,000 7 win. On average, I'd say that's like 23,000, which is ridiculously strong. Moving on to Nevsky, it was a 23,000, a 17,000, and I think I only ran 2 reports, so I forgot to screenshot the last, but to my knowledge, it was around a 20,000 or 22,000. So yeah, Arthur is definitely quite a powerful commander. His damage with Nevsky was absurd, the amount of wins he could get, like how big they were. The only march that was really able to stop Arthur was a William Wallace with a Liu Chen. Now, I don't know why this march was able to. Maybe it's really good in one situations because of William Wallace, and he's got really good shielding and stuff. That could be a reason, but I feel like William Wallace is, again, also a lot of a team player commander. He gives your nearby allied commanders shields and stuff, so I don't know if that's why he won. William Wallace with Liu Che is just absurdly powerful, I would say, so it could really demolish. And Ragnar with Scipio, or Scipio with Ragnar, of course, it didn't really win. It's more meant for the open field because it is a double AoE. This new Cav March, though, definitely did destroy the archers. I probably should have tested the Shajar March, but right now I don't think Shajar is going to be too overpowered against them. I mean, she's going to treat them like any other skill damage commander, and if they're wrecking Herman that bad, Zulang Herman, then I have a feeling Shajar is going to still take a very big hit, and she's going to get beat up pretty badly. So maybe I would have tested it, maybe I will once the rally comes out, I'll just chuck the test in there, but for now, I would say that generally archers have pretty much no chance against these cavalry, and that means I can say very confidently, Arthur's probably going to be meta. If you expertise him day one of release, you're definitely not going to be upset with him. And his best pairing, I would say, is probably with Hao Bing. Hao Bing doesn't have the best commander pairings right now. You got Belisarius, but he's nah. Nevsky Joan is definitely going to be stronger than a Hao Bing with a Belisarius. So I think the Hao Bing Belisarius is, Hao Bing with Arthur is going to be the meta for him. But Nevsky is a really, really solid option and pretty much identical. It's just like a slight mutable preference. You'd probably get Hao Bing first. But if you wanted Nevsky with him, I could say it would definitely work, and it's going to be powerful. It's maybe only going to be probably like 2,000 to 3,000 7 wins less per big battle that you do. So they're almost identical. I would say that you could run either one with him. Hao Bing just seems to be slightly stronger, but as an overall murderable, I would say that Nevsky is probably better because Nevsky does have the defense reduction, and that's going to give you a nice big bonus for your other marches. So Hao Bing probably generally better in the open field damage for Arthur alone, but Nevsky really going to be overpowered once you get in another 2 or 3 marches to give him a bit more support and benefit from that defense reduction. So overall, I would say that Nevsky is probably meta with Arthur, and the same thing with Hao Bing. They both seem relatively meta. As for Attila and Takeda, they are not it. I definitely will not be running them with Arthur. Joan is not going to work because you want to run Arthur as a secondary, and Joan primary just really isn't a thing. So I would say Attila, Takeda, and Joan, 3 commanders I speculated could have worked, definitely will not. Attila is not even close to working because Arthur, again, would need to be the primary, and it just doesn't work out in the way that their active skills line up. The same thing with Takeda, and Joan just will not be the best option. I wouldn't want to run the double AoE Cav March. That is going to be very lackluster on stats. So I would say that generally, Nevsky or Hao Bing with Arthur seems to be the meta, and it is going to be most likely the strongest commander we'll see over the course of 2025. He's definitely a strong commander, and I'd say relatively confidently, Arthur could be in the pitch for the best commander currently in the game because of his strength. Now, maybe he's not the best. Liu Che and Zulang might still win, but he's definitely going to be up there. Now, if you enjoyed today's video and me trying to explore how good Arthur is going to be on the open field, please do consider subscribing to the channel. I try to make complete guides for every single commander that releases. Arthur is going to be the exact same, and also I do try to release as many testing results as I possibly can for the commanders that are upcoming to Rise of Kingdoms. I always like to use the Rise of Kingdoms tester, even if it's not 100% accurate. It does give us a nice little idea of some of the synergies that we could see once the commanders fully come in the game. So if you want to see more stuff like this, more videos like mine, consider subscribing. It really supports me and it is much appreciated. Now, I just want to say thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.